hit record yet.
Oh, but I wanted to do it. It was fun.
Do it now. Oh, but I need the visual to sync it. No, you don't need the lens.
Right.
Alright, thank you.
Can we have a blooper outtake reel?
Sure.
That should be on it.
I'll put it at the front.
No, because then everyone will see it. It needs to be like at the end, funny.
Oh, okay,
But
sure.
not exposing me to too much public ridicule.
Okay. We'll see. I'm Ben. This is Unpolished. You might be wondering why I'm in front of... Actually, you can't see where I am, but I'm in front of my sink. And I'm going to be doing the dishes. I think in a previous episode of Unpolished, I actually mentioned what it can be like to have a full-time job and have kids and a home and, you know, maintenance and etc. So I know that if I don't actually do this now, I'm not going to do it, and best to kill two birds with one stone. I think I can do the dishes and talk at the same time, but we'll see whether or not this is the thing that you'll see the whole time. Got my brush. Also got my dog. Oh, Lincoln. This is my pooch. He's a good boy, but he tends to stand right here when I'm doing the dishes, because he knows he'll probably get some of the scraps. Anyway, he's my company tonight. I wanted to talk to you guys about this concept of the lookbook. This is something I've been thinking about because my Snake Island copy edits are coming up, and those are the edits that are really close to the line. Those we've done the big story structure edits, and these are just sentence by sentence, word by word, full stop by full stop. These are close, intricate edits. And I've been thinking about this concept of the lookbook and how it's something that I've always done without really being conscious of it. Doing the dishes thing is actually harder to talk at the same time, but we'll see. We'll get there. So the lookbook. I've heard of this phrase, the lookbook. The first time I heard this phrase was on a podcast called the Q&A podcast with Jeff Goldsmith. And on that podcast, a number of screenwriters talk about going in to pitch their movie ideas to studios with this thing they call the lookbook. And what they'd do is they'd make a book and they'd cut scenes out, pictures, old drawings, text. But the idea is when you read this, it gives you a sense of the tone of the movie that they have in their mind. And so, you know, maybe they include a few stills from Mad Max Fury Road, and they include a few stills from Up, and they might, you know, have some music or something there, something about, I don't know, Weird Al Yankovic or something like that. But those three things combined, man, that would... I would see that movie. But those three things combined would give the producers an idea about what they're going after. This is called a lookbook. I've also heard of it called Attone Poem. But it's something I've been thinking about because I've heard a lot of authors actually say that they refuse to read other authors while they're working on a book. And it's because the idea is that when you're in a creative space, you just kind of absorb everything. And so when you're reading other people's work, your work will sound more like their work. And so it's understandable. It's just not something that I necessarily agree with. I like the idea of reading other people's books while I work because I think it inspires me. It makes my work clearer. And sometimes I can see something in another person's work where I think that's something that I need to work on in my own book. So I thought I'd actually take you through not really the look, I guess so, the lookbooks for my two novels. My novel, To Become a Whale, my new novel, Snake Island, which will be out, I think, mid to late next year. So, first of all, To Become a Whale. To Become a Whale is, I wanted it to be gentle, I want it to be thoughtful. It's about a boy who's a bit more sensitive, a bit more artistic, and he's a bit unsure of himself. He doesn't really know if he's man enough, if he has what it takes to be a man in a rough world of whaling. And so I wanted the tone of the novel to be gentle and precise and careful. So I had, really there were two big inspirations for me. One was a piece of music, and I'm going to try to actually play it in this YouTube video. My editing skills still need to be worked on, but I'll try to play it, by a band called The Middle East. Great Australian band if you haven't heard them. They broke up, I think, in 2013. Their music's fantastic, and there's one song called Deep Water, which I think captured that tone of reflection with sentimentality and like a gentle type of masculinity. So I'll play a bit of that clip here.
It's deep water, driving rain, and all I can remember is a cold. Another burned out lover who was begging to leave. She said, why won't you tell your soul to me?
The other thing, one of the novels that really inspired the tone of that novel, and it might not actually be apparent when you read my book, but it's Gilead by Marilyn Robinson. And Gilead's a really formative book for me. It's one of those books that I read that made me want to write. But just the tone, that gentle, careful, considerate tone of John Ames. And you know, he's not a typical macho bloke, but he is a bloke who's really earnest in becoming a father and doing the best for his children and his wife and his congregation. So I love that book, and the tone of it is completely in To Become a Whale. Yeah, that's my lookbook for To Become a Whale. Simple, 2 things. And I would often go back to those 2 things. I would read a little passage from Gilead, or I would just put the music on while I was writing, but those were 2 real beacons in the writing of To Become a Whale. Now, Snake Island's a different matter. Snake Island's a different kettle of fish. Snake Island's another useless metaphor that everyone says. Snake Island's different. It's crime, thriller, modern Western morality tale. There's drugs, there's crime, there's multiple shifting perspectives. I want it to be tough. I wanted it to be bleak, but I want it to be philosophical and thoughtful. So there's a couple of things here. First of all, again, this will sound odd. One of the bands that I look to for inspiration with this book is called The Chariot. Chariot. Yeah, I'll play a little clip of them, not too long, because they're pretty aggressive. The thing I like about The Chariot is their controlled chaos. I like that it's very difficult to latch on to parts of their work, their art, and I like that in aggressive music. I like that it's challenging. I like that I can't quite get a handle on what's going on there. And I think that's great. In art, that's great. Look, to be made to feel uncomfortable, like you don't quite know where your footing is. That's what I loved about The Chariot. I also love the aggression, just how tough it was. So that's what I took from The Chariot.
Don't stick around, I watch it, we cannot put questions to the after that they get out. We can make a perfect. Don't stick around,
Movie-wise, there's a movie called 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which I know everyone's heard of with all its Oscar wins. The thing I liked about that movie was the way the plot unfolded in such a natural, organic way. So I didn't know what was going to happen. Everything felt natural, everything felt earned, and yet it felt unexpected. Like to use a book term, it felt like I wanted to keep turning the page. What's going to happen? How is this going to unfold? So definitely that one. Another one would be Fargo, the TV show, especially season 2. Just that bleak kind of comedy about a small town, especially. But just also the way that all the different families interact. And then novel-wise, a big inspiration for me for this one was No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. And the main thing I took away from that, from its tone, was the last third of that novel, in which it sort of upends the genre a fair bit, and it makes you really think about not just what's in the plot and the characters, but outside of that, what role the genre plays in shaping worldviews and shaping values. And I'm a big fan of Cormac McCarthy in general, so that was a huge book as well. So those would be my tone. That would be my tone poem for Snake Island. Hopefully, those things combined make it interesting. If I'm pitching this to you, would you actually buy that book? Hope so. I hope so. Thought I'd go through. Actually, I had to go and get the books. I'd forgotten to grab them, and I had to wash my hands because I didn't want to hold them with my hands, even though apparently that didn't work. A few books I've been reading. I've been reading heaps of books. I don't update this channel often enough. I'd like to start to do a bit more of that. Maybe I can if I do these sweet little videos. Anyway, some books I've been reading. This one I just got. Love Bosch. Love Michael Connolly. What fun. Nothing too extreme, but the characters are rich. Things are interesting. It's entertainment. I love entertaining books. I love watching Die Hard. I love this book. I love Michael Connolly in general. He's a master at this sort of thing. Page turner, absolutely. Lastly, I'm just reading this one as well, which I'm taking a break from. Can you see it? Oh, sorry, out of focus. Flannery O'Connor's Wise Blood. I got it for $5 from a bookstore sale in the middle of one of those shopping centres. This one's really dense. I'm finding it quite difficult. I love Flannery O'Connor. I love the way she writes, and I love how grim she is. It's really fascinating, the worldview she paints, especially as she was a Catholic, which you would think would mean that she'd view the world with a fair bit of hope. A lot of the time her novels are very bleak, a worldview without God being very bleak. So I find it very interesting, especially when this person in this novel is a preacher. Very interesting, but as you can tell, it's a dense, thoughtful read, so taking my time with this one. That's all from me. Thanks for listening. I'd say like and subscribe. Like to hear all the other YouTube creators say, but which would be great. But I'm more interested in actually hearing from you about your thoughts about what we've said. So I'd love some comments. I'd love to hear what you think about the idea of the lookbook, whether you think it's valuable, whether you think that when you're creating, you should put yourself in that little igloo and not have other people inform what you create. Anything. Love to hear from you. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.